Hey, what's up, guys? It's Reed Young, aka Shuda here. I'm going to show you guys a pretty cool hand that we played at 510 on iPoker, and I think this will show you guys some pretty cool concepts that aren't really discussed anywhere else that I know of. So, without further ado, let's get to the hand. So, you guys can see pre-flop the button open limps, which he has 33 big blinds. If you guys haven't noticed, this is a 50 big blind buy-in table, so it can make for some interesting dynamics that a lot of people aren't really used to, but it's just how iPoker works in a lot of their 5-10 games. So the button open limps, the small blind makes it 3 big blinds, we call in the big blind, and we have actually Jack 9 offsuit in this hand. I'm not sure why it's not showing up, but just keep that in mind as we go throughout the hand. The small blind checks the flop, so I would weight his range toward made hands or something like a semi-bluffing type hand that he wants to check raise if someone takes a stab on the flop. So, and then maybe occasionally giving up, since we both are so short stacked, he would assume that someone hits a big enough piece on this board that he doesn't want to be continuation betting always. Especially with the button stack size, he could probably shove a gutter profitably against a lot of people in the small blind's position. So it's possible he's also just kind of giving up with the hand. But when the small blind checks, I would expect him to either be kind of trapping to get all in, or I would expect him to be giving up most of the time. So what I interpret from his check, given stack sizes here, is that he's actually a lot more afraid of getting shoved on than he is by trapping, because we're so short that there's a lot of hands that he could get value from by betting. I don't think a trap is necessarily the best play for him, and I would expect this player to be cognizant of that. So he checks. We check Jack 9. I think it's a fine spot to take a stab, but if we're betting Jack 9 there, then we're pretty much betting every time when we get checked to, and we didn't want to do that, so we decided to let it check through. Once it does check through, I'd put the button on some sort of smaller pocket pair or ace high a lot of the time. I don't think he would have checked back with Queen Jack and stuff like that. So on the turn, we make middle pair, which I think is very likely the best hand given all the stuff that we just discussed. And the small blind bets a little more than half pot. I think this is an easy call. We have implied odds if he does have a better hand, because we're in position. It's going to be easy for us to play the river well. And I think the button should be playing pretty straightforwardly against us as well. So, we call the turn bet, and the button also calls. When the button calls, I think I changed my mind a little bit on our initial read on the flop, and that's because I wouldn't really expect him to have that many strong hands with which he could overcall here. Maybe he would have something like 8-7 and be trying to either make a straight or 2 pair of trips on the river. Maybe he picked up a flush draw with an ace-x, or he has like ace-7 or ace-10, and he's decided to peel one, and he thought his outs were good enough. He has enough equity. He's getting a great price and position too. So I think he's peeling a lot here with some sort of a weaker showdown value. If he had a good semi-bluffing hand or a lot of equity, I think he would shove a lot of the time, just expecting the small blind to be fairly weak and expecting us to either have a weaker made hand that would have a tough time calling the shove, or just some sort of draw that's just floating the small blind's bet. So if we have Jack 10 or Queen Jack, something like that, and he shoves, if the button shoves, then it's going to be tough for us to call it off. So all of that put together, when he calls, I would put him on some sort of weak made hand, possibly an ace high that's trying to get to showdown as well. So onto the river, it's an offsuit ace, and the button bet's 140. And now I think we have a lot of options here. or the small blind. Sorry, the small blind bets 140, and I think we do have a lot of options. I think by far and away most of these small blinds range is going to be a bluff here. I don't think he can really represent this ace, and I don't think he should be thinking that he can get value by betting a king here, because to get value from a king, he would be basically hoping that someone calls him with a 9 or an 8, which I don't think that many people do, and I don't think that he would think that many people do. So what we can do here is call with our 9 and expect the button to fold a better hand a lot of the time, and that's because to make this call we have to have a pretty strong hand. Also, it's fairly unlikely, just from the button's point of view, that we could get value by raising. So even if we did have a very good hand here, maybe something like ace-8, and we make this call, our best hope to get money is to induce the button to call as well. So I think it looks like a credible over-representation of our 9 here. So we can both hero call the small blind and get the button to fold a better hand. And we call on the button, or on the big blind, and the button actually tanked for about 10 seconds and then folded what was certainly a better hand. So we called, and the small blind had queen 10, so everything worked out according to plan. I thought this was a pretty sweet hand, and definitely one that illustrates some pretty cool concepts about multi-way play. So if you guys like this video, share it with a poker buddy, and I'll see you guys in the comment section. Take care, guys.